A very warm welcome. Today we have with us Mr. Bindu Madhav, who is the CFO at Ajax Engineering Private Limited. A very warm welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us at CXOTVnews.
Yeah, thank you, me. And it is very nice pleasure for me to join in this conversation. Right? Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Before we now take over to the discussion, we would actually like to hear from you how your journey has been so far. If you can share with our CXOTV audience.
Yeah, it is a post qualification of CA. I have worked in very different industries. Starting my career with the fertilizer company Speak based at Chennai, and then afterwards I moved to their one of the subsidiary in Jordan, where they used to manufacture the phosphoric acid and other things. And then I am back to India and joined one of the Fortune 500 company, SHV Gas. Their brand name is Super Gas, where I was taking care of whole taxation, both the direct, indirect taxes, and internal audit, treasury, and other things. I was there for 7 years, then moved to Danfoss, Chennai, where I have been taking care of the treasury function and as well as capex. And post to that, I was working as a business unit in charge as a financial controller for one of the their business unit, cooling segment, what we'll call. And I was there for 5 years, and then back to Ajax. Joined in Ajax in 2017, right? And as a CFO, Ajax is a construction equipment company based at Bangalore. And it's a 30 years old company. It is we manufacture different type of concrete equipments, starting from self-loading concrete mixer, batching plants, boom pumps, and other things, which is everything, the whole gambit of related to construction equipment. And in fact, Ajax is one of the global leader in SLCM specific product. So this is my journey.
Wonderful, sir. So we would actually like to understand that as a CFO, this extensive experience in the engineering and construction sector, what are some of the key financial challenges you think that companies in this industry commonly face? If you can share.
Yeah, sure. See, the one few major challenges are from the macroeconomics point of view, the government spend, which is key. I can say in both terms is a positive factor and as well as a challenger. Because when the government spends more on the infra spending and other things, obviously, a rosy picture of huge sales and kind of thing. And if the government, whatever the reason, right, if they stop the spending or reduce their spend, then obviously we'll have a tough challenge in the product whole sales. So that is one of the major key factor. Post to that, the second major factor is related to the industry specific. And as you see, it is a big equipment, which is like which is made up of steel and other things. So the one of the factor of steel price movement is another key issue for us to tackle. So these are the two macro levels which are more specific to the industry, what I can say.
So could you discuss some of the macroeconomic factors and market trends that impact the financial decision making within the engineering and construction sector?
Yeah. So as I said, it is a more policy decisions of the government which will influence the whole market trends, right? And as well as the like emission norms. For example, to quote, 2 years back, the whole industry emission norms were changed from BS3 to BS4, which put a lot of cost impact on the company, means in the product. So the product cost was significantly increased, which results again, it is an end consumer. Though it is emission norms wise, I fully support the government thought and other things. However, again, what happened within 2 years, they are coming with the CEV5 from CEV4, what we'll call. Again, it will increase the cost or escalate the cost of the product. Though it is required for in terms of the environment factors, but such a short period where nobody is ready and not allowing sufficient time for the industry is a little challenging one. So these are key kind of policy things which will influence the market, right?
So we would like to understand that in such kind of industry, it is more often project-based contracts. So how do financial leaders navigate the complexities of project financing and risk management? And if there are certain strategies that successfully companies employ to manage the cash flow effectively while undertaking such large-scale projects?
Yeah, it's a good question because that is the industrial problem.
Yeah.
Right? As you rightly told, it requires huge capex. Any construction kind of industry or a dam or whatever it is, project requires a huge capex, cash flow. And second, being it is many of the projects are undertaken by the government, which will be kind of delays and project delays, and which in turn escalate the whole cost, will be a challenging situation. And the major, apart from this, funding is another big issue. And at least earlier we have specific financial institutions where like ICICI, Industrial Financial Corporation and other things. However, after post era where they have migrated as a bank, so there is no specific institution which is funding these huge mega projects. And in addition to that, the government spend wise also, there will be, as you can see, it is every state, it is not particular one state. And there are huge delays in the outflows and their release of money and whatever the reasons. So these are the key factors which is putting challenge on the whole project costing and the escalations, what is happening. Unlike other developed countries where it is a timeline based where the construction will complete, and which is not happening in India, and by in turn escalating the cost in double or triple fold and making the whole project as unviable solution. So this is one of the biggest challenge what I see.
You mentioned that a huge amount of cash flow is required. So at the same time, in a way, in terms of financial planning, as much as crucial in that circumstances. So what considerations are unique to businesses dealing with heavy equipments and machinery, such as those used in this concrete production and construction?
It's a kind of a mixed situation where the banks are supporting to some extent for the good rated companies, and that gives some kind of leverage and breathe for the end consumers. However, if you ask me, my personal experience from past 6 years, it is lot to go. And second thing is, it is a kind of a space where the banks wise, it is less focus area. And whenever there is a infra spending and other things, banks were also a little afraid of the huge NPAs and other things, what is happening, or earlier history, what happened. So they were a little concerned on their quality of the debt, and by which automatically there are some kind of obstacles or slowness in the whole system, probably which as a industry we have to fight, and as a it has to be worked together to improve that.
Could you elaborate on the role of financial forecasting and budgeting in ensuring the financial stability and growth of companies operating in this sector or done?
As I mentioned, one of the major key challenge for us is related to the whole sales seasonality, which influenced more by the government policies. Just to give an example, when there is a rainy season, the whole construction activity will slow down a lot, right? And that affects like the whole Q2, quarter two, the sales or performance of the company, and as well as the whole business or whatever the scenario. And third, one more example is the whole funding and other things will happen in the by the bank at the fag end of the month. So which will be like, just to give an example, so that you'll get a high perspective. We'll be selling 100 units in from first of the month to till say 28th, and last 2 days our number will be say another 100. It is like more than 50-60% I will be selling in the last 1 day, which will be putting a lot of pressure on the whole supply chain management and the kind of issues. And in turn, that will be a big challenge for me as a finance guy to how to project the budgets and what is the scenarios, right? It will be a difficult situation. Or, there will be some history, and we have to learn from the history and project from some scenarios, how it will be, and we have to live with that.
You have to understand, like coming to a different sector when we talk about this, sustainability is a huge concern and has created a huge amount of prominence over the period. So how can financial leaders help drive initiatives for sustainable practices within the organization and the industry as a whole?
Okay. Now you are probably the current kind of question what you are asking. The ESG is one of the more focus area for all the CFOs. Though it
Right.
is not mandatory for companies, all companies, like especially like us, and only the top 1,000 companies in the BSE is mandatory. However, more than the statutory thing or kind of thing, what I see is it is a necessity as a CFO for the sustainable growth to see. And post, in addition to that, the economical benefits also what we'll have. Just to quote one example, right? Solar power project in our company, and it is a whole capex model what we have put that one, which cost us around 3.5 crores. And initial thought process for everyone is it is only the model required for the environment. However, nobody was so much keen or understood what are the benefits, economical benefits it is giving to the company, right? And just to say, the payback period is below 4 years in this case. And as a CFO, it is really excellent project which nobody can say no, right? And in addition to that, there will be kind of mitigating the risk of power failures and other things, and which I can't quantify, right? So considering as a CFO, probably we have to identify what are the key projects which are beneficial for environment and as well as the ESG goals wise, and also taking care of our probably the economical requirements as such. Only thing is, as I said, it is our interest and our
Well, that's the environment.
yeah. Finally,
So, I mean, in terms of technology, when it comes to advancement, this entire industry is getting reshaped with advanced technology. So, how can financial leaders balance investment in new technologies with the need to maintain profitability? As you were mentioning earlier.
see, as I said, the it is a big challenge when the government policy decisions were keep changing, the emission norms were changing. As I mentioned, in our own case, when the emission norms were changed, the whole cost of the product was gone up substantially, right? And when that is the case, I can't pass on the whole cost to the customer. It will be difficult for the customers to absorb in one go. And then what will happen is it will put a lot of pressure on the company margins. And then, however, it is the CFO's call, and they have to guide the company along with the sales or CEO and other things to see what is the perspective, how we want to take up, what extent it can be absorbed by the market, and what extent it has to be internally absorbed, and then work on the cost measures like kind of thing, or absorb the cost, which again in turn hit our margins. So this is our call, and you have to live with the industry and the scenarios.
So, investing on such huge technological advancement also requires investors. So, how do you maintain a healthy relationship with financial institutions and with investors who are very crucial for the organization? And could you share some insights on effective capital raising strategies and building investor confidence?
Again, it is one of the biggest key challenge for the whole construction equipment and as well as the construction industry as such, right? As I mentioned, the whole project cost will be huge, and which require the funding from obviously the financial institutions or banks. Without that, we can't. Nobody can invest so much. And when it comes that it is being they are also one of the major key stakeholders. It is mandatory or required for us to manage the relations, and in such a way that we have to explain to the bankers or whoever the key stakeholders how the business, how it is happening, what are the scenarios, keep update them. Just to give an example, during COVID, everyone faced, right? So that is a scenario where everyone faced, and when we started explaining to the bankers and other things, being it is a whole global scenario and not particular for one company or for one particular client, everyone knows. But at the same time, the similar trend where the emission norms are happening. As again, I will go to the case where our inventory was higher. So if you see as a bank or a financial institution, they will start questioning why is so high inventory. And then again, we have to explain them this is a business requirement or scenario, which will be a kind of one time. And the question is whether we'll wait for the answer to the bank once the question comes, or I will prepare them, I'll make them to understand, I'll update them prior, is the question. if I could able to make them to inform them prior and make them to understand how the business is happening, what are the changes are happening, what are the implications, well equipped, then there won't be any issues. They also understand the requirements, challenges, what business will face, and then it will be good for both.
Right. So, in the industry, as the industry across, we are seeing so much of improvement in terms of automation, in terms of digitization. So, how do financial leaders adapt their financial strategies to accommodate the changing dynamics of the workforce as well as the operations?
Digitization, sorry, is kind of now mandatory. If you ask me, right, no company can survive without that. Starting from the ERP, what you can say, and everything. When that is the case, if as a CFO, if I say no, I want to be, I don't want to be participating in that revolution, and obviously I'll be lagging behind. And second, being the cost conscious, many of the products which are related to the involves IT, right? That will give a good valuation to the business, and which will have improvement in the profitability of the company, and also the whole how the business happens. If the case, if obviously the CFO's requirement is they have to involve in the required projects, and it could be ERP, starting from, just to give an example, right? The ERP implementation, or it could be analytical tools, or it could be the business strategy what we will follow, or even the budgets what you have mentioned, right? So whether can I project my sales, how it will happen, and what are the kind of correlation factors with other parameters. Whether, just to take one example, our case, construction equipment, can I correlate with the cement consumption, right? Or can I correlate with the housing market? So these are the key factors which we have to consider, so that it will in turn, it will help us to understand the whole business, and probably help us in day-to-day operations in terms of the ease of doing, and as well as the cost efficiency.
Absolutely. I agree with what you say, that the entire industry is getting digitization, and it's important to get digitized and accept the new adaptive technologies in order to accommodate yourself to the advanced environment. So I would like to understand further. So in terms of adapting new technologies, and at the same time, how important it is to strike a balance to have the proper ROI on the investments. So if you can highlight that, so how important it is.
See, unfortunately, what will happen is you are asking the finance guy about the ROI. So what will happen is ROI is a very key factor. No CFO will compromise on that, right? However, see, always it is not the only ROI what is matters, and there are other key parameters which we have to understand, and which we have to take care. Just to give an example, there are some kind of statutory changes, right? Like, for example, recent Companies Act says that you have to have the backup, daily backups within India, right? I can't say that no. Though it is looks for the time being, it looks like an imposition from the government saying that it is a statutory requirement. But if you see, it is good for us, right? As a risk mitigation parameter, which is one of the key challenge for the CFOs, right? If today, if I say that, okay, I don't know what is the daily weather backup parameter, or I will say the backup is weak, right? And then I'm not talking about the big industries where they are well versed about their requirements and other things. But if you see the small and mid-sized organizations, though it is the government-wise, they are pushing us, it is required. And so these are the key things which we have to keep in mind, rather than only focusing on ROI, so that it will be a long-term way. It is better for us and better for the company's growth and strategy.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your time and giving such insightful knowledge on the industry. Thank you once again for joining us. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Urvi, and it is a great honor for me to join and share my thoughts, and looking forward to it.
Thank you, sir.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.